Hey you prodigies, a few of you have been asking me whether or not I think Henry is perfect Bendy, and in this video, that's exactly what I will explain. So let's get into it. Thank you to the prodigies who listened into this theory on the ProdCast. The ProdCast is a podcast channel where I upload early access to my theories. I'll also be posting interviews and random thoughts related to horror games on this channel, so if you're interested, tap the card in the top right, subscribe, and tap that bell. I just want to thank the Twitter prodigy EJ Smith in particular for giving me the inspiration to do this video, because they sent me a tweet asking me to shut down the Henry is Bendy theory, and this is something that I've been seeing popping around in my comments and in my groups, but I never really got the appeal of this theory, mainly for one big reason, and I'll share it with you right now. In Chapter 2, when Sammy Lawrence captures you and sings his sheep song just before he goes into the lullaby, he says that he recognizes you. Now this is really important because if he knows who you are, and he's so hell-bent on praising Bendy and putting Bendy cutouts all over the place, perfect Bendy cutouts by the way, and drawing ritual circles all around the studio, it should be pretty clear to him at this point that Henry should be Bendy. But no, he doesn't say this, he goes back to his room to sing his song and summon Bendy. And when Bendy comes into his room to attack him, he ends up recognizing Bendy and referring to him with all of the terms that he's been referring to Bendy as this whole time, so things like my lord, I am your prophet, and stuff like that. With that being said, sure, Henry isn't Bendy now, but who knows if some sort of ritual will happen in Chapter 5 that will turn him into Bendy. Also, as we continue our journey through the studio, we come across characters like Imperfect Alice Angel who just refer to him as Henry. She knows who Bendy is, she knows who the Ink Demon is, so she would have addressed him as such if he had any resemblance to Bendy. And the same thing really goes for Perfect Alice in the Chapter 5 production trailer, although this one's a little bit trickier because we don't know the dialogue that happens around those lines that are said, where she says, "Henry, why are you here?" So there could still be a chance that Henry turns into Bendy before that, or after that. But my thoughts for now are that he just doesn't, up until Chapter 4 at least. Now there are some interesting things to note as well that happen in the game that could suggest this. One is that Henry passes out on one of those alchemic glyphs at the end of Chapter 1. This might have sparked his transformation into an ink being, but I don't think that it's changing him into a cartoon. Otherwise, Sammy would have said something by the end of Chapter 2. Another thing you can point to is the death screen, where if you reverse the audio, I'll put a card in the top right for those who don't know about it, but if you reverse the audio in this death scene, you can hear a bunch of Henry quotes from previous chapters, and maybe one or two that we haven't heard before. I'm not sure if that was confirmed yet or not. So a lot of people associate this with the inky well of voices that Imperfect Alice Angel refers to in Chapter 3. And thus people say that Henry is being reborn as a cartoon as he emerges from that ink. It's a pretty cool idea, but it has a couple of problems. One is that you're able to die and enter this inky well of voices before you even encounter Sammy Lawrence, who will still go on to refer to you as Henry. Another thing that we need to consider is whether or not Henry dying to a searcher or a butcher gang member or whatever other hazard there is in the game is canon to the story. Judging from what I just mentioned that happens in Chapter 2, I'm guessing not, because the same thing doesn't happen in other chapters. As far as we can tell, in Chapter 2 and 3, all of the characters see Henry as Henry. Even in Chapter 4, because Imperfect Alice has more lines that refer to him as Henry during the Haunted House ride. Again, it's not like the instance of it happening is impossible in Chapter 5, but up until the end of Chapter 4, I really don't think anything happened to Henry to cause him to change into Perfect Bendy. That being said, something like Henry becoming an ink worker could be happening, but until we actually get to see Henry, or we get to hear a reaction from one of the other characters when they're talking to Henry, it's just really difficult to say. I've noticed that some of the prodigies suspect that Joey Drew did not become an ink worker. He's just like this guy down in the deep depths of the studio pulling some strings to make everything that happens at the studio chaotic. So maybe he will be the one to reveal information about this sort of thing. It would be pretty twisted because up until this point we thought we were making progress, but if Joey Drew comes out and tells Henry that he's been tricked into becoming an ink worker, then it just sets back everything we've done, and it creates a whole new problem for us to solve, if we do get to solve it. Now, as you may know or suspect, there are other theories out there that have some problems that don't exactly give it some weight. Tap this video to find out more about that, or check out these videos which were picked just for you. If you're new, remember to subscribe and tap that bell for more Bendy and horror game theories, and prodigies, I hope these videos help to expand on how you think. See ya!